Get started. I'd like to call to order the July 11th, 2023 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. Who would like to lead us in the pledge today? Myron? As you're drinking water. Yes.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. Thank you. At this time, can you please call roll to establish a quorum?
At this time, I am only asking those CAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Ryan Rossi,
Here.
Lily Charlotte Landstrom,
Here.
Aquanette Tyson Thomas,
Here.
Kate Layton, James Garvin,
Here.
Mark Bruner, Ramona Bean is absent, Paula Ryan, Jim Knight,
Here.
James Bonfiglio,
Here.
Richard Vassalotti, Sammy Brown, Jay Mishra,
Here.
Francisco Gill, Myron Uman,
Here.
Terry Brown, Greg Fagan,
Here.
Gwendolyn Lowry,
Here.
Albert Richwagon, Wen Dang.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, the following members are requesting CAC permission to participate remotely. Kate Layden has requested to attend virtually due to a scheduling conflict.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has any objection to that, so please allow her to join via Zoom. And even though the instruction is not there, please use the raise hand function if you have any questions. Okay, so we're moving on to item
Madam
3C.
Chair,
I'm
sounds
sorry.
like we also have Richard Vassalotti on the line.
Oh,
If you want to also have him approved remotely or
yeah, are there any objections to having Kate and Richard participate remotely? I don't think so. So let's have them join the Zoom. So we're moving on to item 3C. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt?
motion?
Okay, motion by James, a second, please.
Second.
Ms. Lowry, yes. Are there any public comments on the agenda at this time? Instruction on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I want to invite any CAC members comment on items that's not already presented on the agenda. For members participating remotely, please utilize the raise hand feature on the Zoom platform and remember to unmute your microphone once you are recognized. I will go this way to the left. So James, Jim, and then Myron.
Am I the first James up?
Yes. you're
Okay.
first.
On July 6th, I read an article in the Palm Beach Post about a Palm Tran bus driver who received a commendation from the county commission for keeping track of one of her passengers. Apparently, a distraught mother posted a picture of him. And I guess he lives independently from the mother, but is able to function. But he rides the Palm Tran bus. And so the Palm Tran bus driver saw the post that he had not contacted his mother in several days. And she wanted to know if anybody heard from him. And the bus driver apparently, reacted to that and said he rides the bus every day and he's okay. So I got, the Palm Tran bus driver, Marcia Solomon, got a commendation from the county commission for work above and beyond the call of duty, keeping track of her passenger. And I thought that might be something that we could do. I don't know if we get money appropriated to do things like that. If we can give her some sort of certificate of commendation from our committee, or if she'd like to come and appear and get applauded for her kind work. Anyway, that was my thought. I wasn't sure if that's something within our purview. If we get, it wouldn't cost a whole lot. I can't imagine to do a letter of commendation. The staff could do that. I mean, that was my thought on reading that article. That's something we can do.
Andrew, do you?
Sure,
Can you
thank you, Madam
respond?
Chair. Should those sort of letters and then also plaques or certificates, yes, those are things that we can pay for with those funds. In regards specifically to this circumstance, you could do that and we could send it to Palm Tran to give to them, or we can invite them here too as well, but
It may or may not be out of her way to come up here, maybe, interfere with, her work or something, but however, I mean, I think it's nice for us to do that, to commend the employees for going above and beyond the call of duty to help protect their passengers. So however, all you staff wants to do it, I think it's fine with me. Do you need a motion for that?
if
You
you'd like
think?
to have
Um,
commend them, and then we can write a letter and
Yeah.
pass it on to Director
Yeah, for
Forbes.
non-item agenda. If we can make a motion, an official motion, and then impromptu, we can adopt that.
I'll do a motion to amend the agenda by adding a action item to issue a letter of recommendation to Marcia Solomon, the Palm Tran bus driver, for safeguarding one of her passengers.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have is it, I'm sorry, to clarify, is it just a motion for a letter of recommendation, or we like to present her with a plaque?
If we have the funds for it, let's give her a plaque.
Probably more like a letter, I'm sure.
It will be on thick stock paper.
That's even better. I tell you what, if it's a matter of money, I'll pay for the framing for a letter of commendation. How's that?
And then just for record keeping, so I guess point of order is, you mentioned it being a change to the agenda. Do you just want to just pass it as a motion right now without changing?
Yes, it'll be ideal.
Is that better? Do it that
Fine.
way?
With this
Okay,
sort of thing, that's fine to do.
Yeah.
very
So-
good.
So we have a motion to have a very thick stock letter of recommendations. And then we have a second by Ryan. So let's, are there any further discussion? And we'll close this item. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, perfect. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Jim,
Mine is not nearly as exciting. I have to have a tooth extracted at 3:15 today, so I have to leave at 2:45. I just wanted everybody to know in case it affected the quorum and everything. Thank you.
thank you.
I'd gladly extract that for you here.
Myron, please.
I just have a question. A number of years ago, we were informed that we could not propose an amendment to any document that is presented for us to recommend to the board. Is that still policy?
I would ask a point of clarification for staff.
I apologize, Myron, would you mind?
The question is, some years ago, we were told that we were not allowed to adopt a resolution amending any of the documents that are presented to us for approval. For example, the tip or the priority document that's come up later. That is, this committee could not recommend a change in the priority. Is that still the case? We can either vote for or against the list that's provided to us.
You are able to make those recommended changes to the board. Yes, you can do that. And so if you're saying to change the order or something, or a clarification on a resolution that you want to make sure that the board knows about, CAC can make that recommendation.
We can do that.
Yes, if there are circumstances, depends on the document itself, but for example, the Transportation Improvement Program recently went through a first review and then a second review last month. That's one of those ones where we can't pull a project at that final meeting. But in this case, this should be fine for listed party products if there's something that you wanted to, that the CAC wanted to put in that recommendation, you can do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And James?
Yeah, super quick. So I oddly found myself in Boca a couple times over the last month. Not usually where I go a lot, but I happen to find that the diverging diamond at 95 in Glades was kind of cool. It was I don't quite know how perhaps Wynn and Ryan can talk more to how the local community feels about that, but from an outsider's perspective, it was efficient, quick, felt a little weird, but it worked real nicely. So
Yeah, if you recall, I guess it was some months ago, but right before it had fully opened or was half opened or whatever the circumstances were, that there was a lot of complaint from a very disgruntled public in Boca. But I think now that all is said and done, I've even found that it is fairly efficient, more than at least when it was under development and still open. And I think that the general feedback from the public, at least on my end, I don't know, maybe you have something else to add, but it seems to have cleaned up quite nicely. So I happen to agree with your comments.
Yeah, it's a really efficient interchange to drive through. So at the end of last month, at the end of June, the TPA conducted a walk and bike audit through this DDI, and it has greatly a lot of participation. If anything, I see Brian so urgently wants to get up and tell us all about this and our experience, because he biked and walked through it.
Yes, so thankfully we were blessed with, Brian Rusher, Deputy Director of Multimodal. So Wen is correct, and Wen joined us on June 30th for the Glades Road Walk Bike Audit. So for those who are unaware, we have a Vision Zero action plan. That plan calls upon the TPA to evaluate recently completed projects for safety. The reason that we went through a project which is literally nearing the edge of end of completion is because this is the first in our county, and we see a lot of information about diverging diamond interchanges from the perspective of people who drive. I would encourage you, and I appreciate County Commissioner Woodward for joining us on this walk audit. She walked the interchange twice for a total of about an hour and a half worth of walking, about 40 minutes on each go in a loop. So that was great for her. TPA staff and DOT and a couple of other consultants walked and biked the interchange. The reason we did this is because we have 6 or 7 diverging diamond interchanges coming throughout Palm Beach County. So we need to learn from this interchange. And we did certainly learn about some safety improvements that could certainly be done just with signal timing for the interchange for people walking and biking. So pay attention to the distance between lights and how much time is given to people who may be on a slower vehicle like a scooter or a bike. And that's some of the things that we're working on. So we'll be working with DOT on those matters, but thank you for the time and opportunity to come and talk about that.
My observation was that out of I would say a majority, more than 70% of people outside of our group that's using that interchange from pedestrian cyclists or were scooters. And that was really exciting to see that micromobility has making its way. But I would say half of those riders were not using the bike lanes as it's intended. They're using the multi-use path or sidewalks, you call it. So if there's any upcoming changes to the new DDI, I think we should consider co-locating like the pedestrian cyclists together and make it safer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any virtual comments, Ruth? So seeing none, we're gonna move right into item 4F, oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Is this the opportunity for?
yes, absolutely. I apologize.
No,
Paula,
that's
right?
okay. I wanted to follow up on what Brian was talking about and what you were talking about because of an inquiry that's been brought to my attention regarding A1A over by the Sloan's Curve. And I received, the community has been asking for the bike lanes to be added as part of the work that's currently being done. And there's sort of a disconnect in terms of whether that's going to happen or whether or not it's been approved to happen. And so I received a notification, a notice from Vandana from FDOT, who basically laid out that there's a 6-foot shoulder, 3-foot paved, 3 feet unpaved, and that they plan to do a 5-foot paved in one area, and on the other side of the street is a 5-foot asphalt sidewalk. But no communication as to whether it's going to be designated as a shared path, whether there's going to be bike share rows or anything of that nature. And I know that it has been litigated in the past with respect to trying to get bike lanes on A1A, and the community is not necessarily supportive of that. So they're going to pave the 6 foot, but they're actually going to pave 5 feet of the 6 foot, but there's no discussion as to whether or not we're going to get any striping, or, lane designation, or even any protection related to the sidewalk and the bike path.
I actually went to that public meeting. It was very heated. I think so one thing, first thing is that I don't think we can, each project is separate. The DDI has 5 to 6 lanes in each directions through the interchange itself. For A1A, I believe that the residents that live adjacent to A1A did not want to lose their landscaped stripped. And so the discussion was that nobody's gonna bike on the road anyway. They just take the lane because we have a lot of road users that use that area. But I have not heard any updates since that last public meeting. So
We'll follow up and get the signing and marking package, but I believe the design is complete and they are moving forward with at least marking the roadway as a bicycle lane with a 5-foot wide asphalt strip. The 6 foot really comes into like the edge of the shoulder. It's like an extra foot of stabilized surface they have to do for vehicle like errant, behavior. So we'll look into if there's going to be signs as well. Sign pollution has been a concern on coastal communities throughout A1A, just having a number of bike signs. Like we can sign up to every 250 feet of a roadway with a bike lane sign. So we want to be cautious of that, but the markings on the road itself, I believe, will be marked as a bike lane.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for item 4F. Andrew, like to invite Andrew to provide an update on the liaisons report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being able to accommodate this change in our schedule for this month for moving the meeting. So the first update, excited to welcome 3 new staff members. With us today, we have Ruth Del Pino. She's our new executive assistant. So she'll be the one that you see and you communicate with, along with the liaison, me. Glad to have her here. Dino Ligatino, our administrative secretary. She's the one in the front that you saw walking in. And she's not standing in the back there right now, but you saw her when you walked in. And then Jessica Lopez is our new procurement and contracts coordinator. So excited to have those 3 on staff. Next is the TPA completed a transit survey during the last month, and it was with the pump month. And with that, we had 195 responses. Really, it's an informal survey that we pushed out to our newsletter and our social media. And the results of that are on the screen. As mentioned, 195 total participants, roughly 42% of participants over the age of 55. Some of the major takeaways from it, very similar to what you see in other transit surveys, but most value is frequent and reliable service, followed by affordable fares. So more frequent service, more reliable service has been one of the greater priorities when it comes to a lot of these surveys. Next is, if you haven't taken the safety pledge yet, we encourage you to take that safety pledge to commit to safety. You can find that pledge card out in our lobby, and it's also at our website at palmbeachtpa.org/vision0. we are hosting a performance measures and targets workshop. So a couple months ago, we came to you all along with the other committees and the board about target setting for our federal performance measures. As a follow-up discussion to that target setting, we're going to have a more in-detailed workshop here in this room on August 17th with FHWA and FDOT. So they're going to come down from central office in Tallahassee, a few of them, and discuss how they set targets at the DOT level and why they set those targets. And then there'll be more of a discussion related to our upcoming LRTP and the goals, objectives, and policies we have moving towards that. You can register for the workshop at the website at PM Workshop, and it's going to be available online as well. So if you can't make it in person, you want to participate in that, we'll also record the meeting. Bicycle friendly designations. So if your community would like to go after those, the deadline is August 30th. That's at the bikeleague.org website. And then lastly, this is really just more grants out there for communities. We put this just to have updates for all our committees and board, but these are federal grants that are up, that are open right now, that municipalities and agencies can apply for. And that's it.
Yeah, SS4A deadline was yesterday,
Was it?
July 10th,
July 10th. So you missed that one. I believe we had a
2024.
few cities that were looking to apply this time around too. So I think we had a few that probably did.
And you have to have an action plan before you go into for an implementation. So I don't think last round, I think a lot of cities were going for an action plan. So that needs to be developed, then cities can start going in for implementation. We are ready for actually, are there any public comments on the liaison report?
No, Madam Chair, but I would like to announce for the record, Sammy Brown joined the meeting at 1:38 PM and Paula Ryan joined the meeting at 1:39 PM.
All right, thank you. Do we have any committee members that like to make a comment or questions on the liaison report? Okay, we're gonna move to our next agenda item, which is the motion to recommend adoption of the TPA's fiscal year 24 strategic plan. Andrew, again at the podium.
Thank you. I wish I changed jackets on the way here, like on a late night television show, but so we have two action items for you today. And that's it. They are a little bit longer presentations, so I'll try to make them exciting for you all. But it's a lot of good information and they're important ones, big documents for us at the TPA. So the first one is related to our strategic plan for fiscal year 2024. We have a 2-year unified planning work program. Every metropolitan planning organization in the country has one of these. And with that UPWP, it's a 2-year planning of our activities with our funds that we receive. And it's what it basically outlines what we do as staff and what we're going to do with consultants. As a focus on those fiscal years, we have a strategic plan. And so what this is a draft of the upcoming strategic plan for fiscal year 24. And the first thing for you is 2023 highlights. And so in front of you all, there is a handout, and that is our annual report. It provides highlights of what we've done in strategic plan this past year, as any other highlights we have going on. Also on the slide, you can see just a summary of that, and you can download it to the website as well. But just some major highlights. You know, a large amount of money programmed in our transportation improvement program, $4.1 billion over 5 years. We had 16 proclamations for Bicycle Month, 6 municipalities adopted Vision Zero. And then there's also a lot of highlights in there in that booklet about projects that are under construction or have been completed for construction. And then heading into this next fiscal year that we're just starting off here on July 1st, we have a few updates for you. I'm going to go through just the major new initiatives that we have going through our different activities. This draft you see before you today was reviewed by our executive committee. That's made up of 5 of our governing board members. They met on June 27th. And then our technical committee and our Vision Zero committee has seen this as well. And it's up for adoption next week at our July meeting. And so the strategic plan is set up just like our Unified Plan and Work program. And the first goal in that is to engage the public. And so I'll go through the major new ones for you all through each slide. The first one is with 1A, increase social media engagement. Switching from doing followers and impressions on our social media to overall just users reached. And so a reach means that they have seen our materials on our social media platform. So 125,000 unique users reached is our goal. Another new one is for 1C, and that is to update the TPA About Us video. We have a series of videos that we published about riding different types of transportation systems from our last strategic plan. There's 4 of those videos. We do already have an About Us video that was made a few years ago. This is just updating it based on our new name, our new branding, and then it's refreshing that video a little bit. So that's a strategic plan item for this fiscal year. Next is plan the system, goal 2. The first one just has a little bit of a tweak in the naming of it. It's to collaborate with partner agencies to create a countywide mobility vision and funding plan. This is one that's carried over and it's we're continuing towards, have a lot of work orders with our consultants and work with a lot of stakeholders to get that moving. It's also in parallel with our 2050 long range transportation plan. So you'll see that mobility vision moving forward towards adoption with our LRTP in the next 2 years. The next one is to create a formal process for selecting and conducting pedestrian bicycle safety field reviews. We had 5 locations last year that we did. We completed those as our outcome. You just heard about the one at Glades Road a little bit today. With our staff, new staff, and looking at the process we have right now for field reviews, we're looking to formalize it a little bit more. So our staff's going to work more towards a selection process about being the most effective use of our time and not spending us too thin when it comes to the safety field reviews. So a new selection process is our goal. Next is a next step in an action plan for our Vision Zero implementation. So we already have that Vision Zero action plan adopted. Another next step in that is a speed management action plan. That's actually one of the goals in that original Vision Zero action plan. And what that is to look at those locations within the county on that are our higher crash locations or high injury network throughout the county, and then focus on the speed of those roadways. What's their current design speed? What is an optimal speed out there based on the community needs? And then set forth a series of recommendations to hit that target speed. So this is how we're going to design for that and how can we educate and enforce on those roadways. Next is to prioritize funding. The first one is a revamp of our funding programs. Right now we have state road modifications, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. I'll be talking about those in our list of priority projects at our next presentation here. But we're looking to revise those funding programs. This is a good time to do it because we're updating our long range transportation plan. We do have a few different revenue sources based on the most recent federal transportation funding bill. So this is our chance to look at our priorities or look at our goals and objectives, reassess our priorities and see how we can make more effective funding programs. So we're going to be updating those in the new fiscal year. Lastly, another one I wanted to mention in this slide is goal 3C, to pursue discretionary grants for TPA priorities. We do have a large list of priorities right now. A lot of them are, many of them are unfunded. There's a huge amount of unfunded needs on that list. So TPA staff is looking to try to go after discretionary grants for some of these priorities. And our goal is to get 1 grant submitted for that. Goal 4 is implement projects. The first one relates to identifying additional improvements for complete streets when there are maintenance jobs, resurfacing jobs out on roadways. So we get the list from FDOT. A good example is A1A that was spoken about earlier on Palm Beach Island. When these resurfacing jobs come up, this is our opportunity to incorporate complete streets improvements. And so the outcome is to identify additional complete streets improvements on these resurfacing projects. Number 5, collaborate with partners. The first one that's changing is 5C, to create a model transportation demand management policy. And so transportation demand management is really trying to provide different types of travel options for people coming into different areas. So it's a whole series of different techniques and policy decisions you can do to provide more travel options, but whether making it more convenient, providing ride share, parking situations. So there's a lot that really goes into that. We've been seeing this requested from a lot of cities in our county about how can we create a transportation demand management in our area. And so we're looking to have a model policy created for those cities. And I believe the first one we're looking to do it with is West Palm Beach, and that can serve as a model for other cities. Next is to conduct site visits to learn more from partner agencies. So conducting 2 site visits next year. And then lastly is number 6, administer the agency. And this is more towards those administrative tasks, both administrative and then also financial ones. The first update is to streamline our accounting system, just to implement a consolidated accounting system. We have our finance staff working towards that next year. And then streamlining the interlocal agency services and benefits. So we have a lot of benefits right now through a variety of partners. We're an independent agency, but right now, for example, our health insurance is through Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization. We have a few other benefits depending on which agencies. So we're looking to streamline a few of those if we can, and look at other additional benefits if possible. And then another last one I wanted to mention is 6D, training and succession plan. So this is one of the ones that came out of our one of our federal findings. And I think this is for a lot of the metropolitan planning organizations in the state, but to put in a training and succession plan. So when it comes to staff and turnover or whichever other thing we have to do, make sure people are cross-trained. And that's all I have for you. So I'd be happy to answer questions or have one of our staff come up and speak on one of the ones they lead.
Perfect. Thank you. Paula, Ryan, your card's up.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. And as you were discussing this, I was reminded of the torrential rain pour that the Hudson Valley and Vermont have experienced. So there are a lot more roads and bridges that are being that are collapsing based upon the heavy impacts of, if you don't want to call it climate change, just additional rain and heat. So is there anybody in this organization or in FDOT is tasked with looking at some of the infrastructure that exists and evaluating some of the dangers that could come from these events?
There is movement at the state level. I'm trying to think of the formal names for the some of the departments. I'm trying to think of like resiliency action plans and if the state has adopted those. I know obviously there's a lot of studies that have come up that have started incorporating hardening of the infrastructure. So a lot of the FDOT products, or all of them that are moving forward and their long range plans incorporate the hardening aspect if they are identified for that. I don't know, Brian, if you have anything else you wanted to add to that. I'm trying to think of some of the.
So FDOT does on every 2 years they do, because like if you think about the critical infrastructures or your roads and bridges in general, they do a bridge assessment, and it's a recurring thing that they do for all the cities and all the county and all the bridges in this district. And each city in each of our city that we represent gets a report, and the city is responsible for reviewing the report and make adjustment, repair, or or replacement as needed. But I know from a critical infrastructure standpoint, that's there. Not every city has a resiliency action plan, and I think I know West Palm has one. I know Palm Beach County has a sustainability and resiliency department but I have not reviewed their plan. Most cities have a stormwater master plan, which in essence that look at flooding and, critical infrastructures there. And they go on a maintenance cycle. I know Fort Lauderdale's going through it because there's just no way that you can raise your seawall by 10 feet immediately. So what are some short-term, action items that they are doing? And they're actually going in and cleaning out your storm system as right now. So I do think that there are, everybody's working together, but it's not, I don't know if it's communicated effectively to us, but because I work in city government, I understand that there are plans out there.
Right, and that's kind of where I was thinking that even though we don't have anything in terms of prioritizing funding or procedures, but is there a place in this strategic plan that we can put something that has us an eye to? Because I know what the county's resiliency challenges have been to build that department, and they are nowhere near the extent that West Palm Beach has. And so, or maybe they have over the last couple of years, but you're right, there is no sort of leader that is looking at this. And what, if you read what occurred in New York and Vermont, these were not 1,000-year events, and these were not vulnerable FEMA locations. It basically said that FEMA's maps are not going to give us any indication as to where we're going to get, where we are the most vulnerable are going to be hit. So I just thought, as we talk about these infrastructure projects, that we should have something in there that relates to our attention to that on some level. So
Yeah.
that-
I
that's all
actually,
my comment.
Paula, I was thinking as, I know, I don't want to, make a lot of comments because I know there's a lot of thoughts that put into this strategic plan already. But I do think that from goal 3, especially when it comes down to funding itself, I've voiced my opinion on how FDOT takes 1% of all their construction and it goes into landscaping all of our interchanges. That's going into our DDIs. That's really, if you look at the landscaping in our interchanges, it's essentially our palm trees that's and some beautiful shrubs. So if those can be reprioritized to city government, maybe for green infrastructures or urban green infrastructures, that could be helpful to really add to that goal. But I am not an advocate of funding interchange landscaping.
Mhm. And I'll just elaborate a little bit more on the point about resiliency and hardening of projects. The TPA staff are very actively engaged in this. We have a very enthusiastic staff when it comes to sustainability and resiliency. I would venture to say that we are paying attention to this and monitoring it very closely. Participated in the Southeast Florida Climate Compact, the Southeast Palm Beach County development of their resiliency plan was something we're involved with from a transportation perspective. And because we have such a narrow emphasis as a transportation agency, we pay very close attention to performance measures and to roadway projects overall, and where we are failing in some of those characteristics. I'd venture to say that in addition to that, FDOT has the Office of Policy Planning, and they have Resilience Action Plan. We'll be looking at this closer in the next coming year. We had some discussions about what MBOs could do, but because that process isn't quite filtered down through the state, through our kind of authority, we're still kind of in a blind spot, and we don't own or operate anything. So we are tracking it from a performance measure standpoint, and we're thinking about how we can maybe do some analysis in the future. But for this year's strategic plan, given how much we are doing with the long range transportation plan, the mobility vision, and then a series of other policies, that's where we were putting our eggs this year, into those baskets. Thank you. Yeah.
VJ.
So just to follow up on what you asked for, at the state level, we have obviously the Chief Resiliency Officer now, who is kind of responsible for doing what exactly they're looking for. He works with the DOT, he works with us, and he works with all kind of local agencies. And right now, actually, there is a resiliency plan that my agency has put out for water management, and plus DOT recently finished their own resiliency plan. So there is a lot work going on. Probably it hasn't trickled down to the our CAC level yet, But there's a lot going on. We work with DOT, Corps, Army Corps of Engineer, counties all the time on working that. So there's a lot going on, and I think Laurie Bush is the one who provides the update to you guys, if I'm not wrong. It may be helpful if she may come back once in a year just to provide update on what we're doing for resiliency and sustainability in Palm Beach County.
How are we doing?
Well, so you have to understand the infrastructure we have in South Florida is almost 100-something year old. What was started for 2 million people, we now have 9 million people. So we are overstressing the system we have right now, and a lot more work needs to go. And we, like I with my agency, we spend a lot of time in thinking about what we need to do, from the flood control, sea level rise, flooding, rain, all those things. We are working on it, but there's a lot more people working on it. I know it doesn't trickle down that much at the like local city or HOA level, but there's a lot of work going on at the state level. Recently, last session, I think there were 3 or 4 bills just related to resiliency and sustainability. So there's a lot happening in the state.
Thank you, VJ Myron.
Just another comment on that. Infrastructure is generally designed to withstand, in terms of rainstorms and flooding, the 100-year storm. It turns out the 100-year storm is a synthetic statistic, if I may express that correctly. I'm not sure when I know that every once they update those statistics every once in a while. I don't know where they are now. I do know that since I've been living in Palm Beach County, which is 2006, we've had 3 events of the 100-year storm since 2006. So the statistics that have been used to design, against which to design our infrastructure, as well as all of our buildings, are really out of date. So it would be interesting to know the basis for the 100-year storm statistics, and the extent to which, or the prospects for getting those statistics updated.
I can just. respond to
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So you're right. All those things are statistical. Now we have something going on. It's called level of service update. So entire South Florida is going through level of service update. So whereby what was a 100-year storm when these systems were designed probably 60, 70 years ago, are they still the 100-year storm? Probably not anymore.
Yeah.
So we are going through, as a matter of fact, we just started the level of service for Palm Beach County this session itself. So you will be getting a report that gets published, and everybody has access to the same report.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any comments virtually? Okay. Seeing none, this is an action item, so I need a motion to recommend approval as presented.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion, Paula, I'm sorry. I have a second by Myron. So a motion by Paula, second by Myron. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please nay. Okay, motion carries, and we're moving right into the next item. It is the motion to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 25 to 29 list of priority project, the LOP. Right?
We don't use that terminology.
Okay.
Just LOPP,
LOP.
but we can use the LOP if you'd like.
Yeah.
So this is the second action item for you today. This is our list of priority projects. So this is for fiscal year 2025 through 2029. And with this list, it is the upcoming fiscal years of 25 through 29, and it's the federal and state funding that would go towards that. So this is our list that we submit to FDOT for priorities, using with revenue sources that we believe will be prioritized by a TPA. And so to get to this point, I'm jumping around here already, but one second. To get to this point, it's a pretty long process. So the TIP development process, the Transportation Improvement Program, really starts well over a year in advance. So last month, you all adopted the current or upcoming tip of fiscal years 24 through 28. And so this list of products is for 25 through 29. And so in the development process, it really starts back in winter, spring of 2023. With that, we look at the products in our long range plan. We also receive applications from local jurisdictions for our funding programs. We assess the feasibility of those products, we rank those projects, and then they get into the list of priority products. So that's what you're seeing for you today. That list of priority products that is covered under major products, also our state road modifications, and then those local initiatives and transportation alternatives programs. That final list is then provided to FDOT, and FDOT will start working towards their next version of their work program. And so that is a statewide work program. And in that statewide work program, they're doing what they call rebalancing. So they're looking at the changes in cost of projects, and they're looking at the updated revenue streams they have coming in. And they try to make sure that everything is already in the work program, remains programmed and on schedule. And then any new priorities, they try to also add into the program. So they're looking at their priorities, other things that has statewide or district-wide, and then they're looking at the MPO priorities, come up with those and balancing that work program. That work program is then presented to the governing board in October of this year. And they also have a statewide meeting and a district meeting on the work program. This is important to note because when you see this list of priority projects, you'll be recommending your approval for this one. And then if the TPA adopts that one, you all will not see this draft tentative work program come before you in October. The turnaround time for them statewide for their work program is pretty tight. It's like a 3-week window. And so there's not enough time for committees to see that. What does happen though is that after that comes to the governing board, they do that presentation to the governing board on the draft tentative work program. They hold those public meetings as well. And so when we get that draft tentative work program in October, we'll be submitting it or we'll be forwarding it to you all committees, the 3 committees. But your agendas would already be out and you guys have already had your meetings by the time this is released. But you can still provide your feedback to us or to FDOT through that public review process. In the end, this work program is then endorsed by MPOs throughout the state. It's reviewed, and then they make their final version of the work program. That work program serves as the basis for our transportation improvement program that you'll see later on next year. And then we'll be operating under that next year in October. Back on the side. And in this list of priority products before you today, it's just showing the products that are TPA priorities. Our transportation improvement program contains FDOT projects, local projects as well. The ones today are just focused on our major projects, state road modifications, our local initiatives, and our transportation alternatives. And so with those 3 programs, the first one, major products and state roads, these are the ones that come out of our long range transportation plan. They're primarily funded through state funds because they occur on state roadways. And so it's mostly state gas taxes going to these projects. Next is the local initiatives. This is the federal funds we receive in that go on, typically try to get it off the state system on the other federal aid eligible roadways. These are the urban formula funds that come to us. And then lastly is the transportation alternatives program. Similar to local initiatives, these are federal funds that come to us that we have to prioritize. And so the first ones I wanted to get to, I'm just going to provide some highlights for you. The backup contains a large list of priorities and it shows the funding needs. I'm just going to touch on the top products for each of the lists and really just the highlights I thought would be most important to you all. Again, this major products, state road modifications. This is products that advance our vision, but mostly on the state road system. And it's anticipated to be around $20 million a year. That fluctuates year to year, depending on district priorities and their needs, along with the costs of projects. An example of one of these products that the TPA had as priority was Southern Boulevard widening. And that's an aerial of that product completed in 2020. So highlights for this list of priority projects, the LOP. The top products on the list, first one you're familiar with, State Road 7 continues to be on the list, 60th and North Lake. Funds needed for that one, $87 million to be fully programmed. Next two are Atlantic Avenue, Florida Turnpike to Cumberland and Cumberland to Jog. Another $56 million there. Next on the list are two products on US 1 that came out of our US 1 multimodal corridor study. Looking to fund construction of those, that's $14 million there. In total for the major products list, including these along with additional products on the list, $390 million, right? So lots of priorities on this list to still be funded. Our priority requests for this section, and you'll see this in the write-up and the backup. The first is a little complicated, but I'll explain it because I think it's important for you all to understand, is to program state funding instead of SU and CARU funding when available. So when we say SU and CARU funding, those are both funding codes. The first one being Surface Transportation Block Grant. That's the one that we typically use for local initiatives. The second one being a new one, Carbon Reduction Funds for urbanized areas, also goes to the TPA to prioritize. We really want to try to spend those monies on our local initiatives and transportation alternatives programs when we can. Right now, they are being spent because of the cost increases on a lot of products to get those state road priorities continued forward. There's a lot of money from these two funding programs that go towards those state road projects. So looking to when there are state funds available or other discretionary funds to put those in place so that we can get the SU and CARU back on local initiatives or transportation alternatives. Next is to fund the advancement of construction for Atlantic Avenue, one of the portions, and that's from Lyons Road to Florida's Turnpike. This is in fiscal year 24. And so the Atlantic Avenue priority extends from State Road 7 all the way to Jog Road. It's broken up into a lot of different segments. The western portion is moving forward it's already in fiscal year 24. That's products going to be constructed in fiscal year 24. This section just to the east of that is right now scheduled for fiscal year 27. FDOT has notified us that it may be possible to move this up to 24 to take place at the exact same time as that western section. And so that's what our priority to them is, to move this from 27 to 24. Next one is local initiatives. This is one of the ones we get submittals from locals on their priorities, and it's prioritized based on our goals, objectives, and our long-range plan. It's around $22 million a year of those surface transportation block grant funds I mentioned earlier, $5 million per project. And the picture showing on the screen here is actually a new one. This is one that was just completed this past year. May also be a highlight in that annual report, Lowson Boulevard and Delray Beach, shared use pathways. Some updates on these. So the first update is our list last year included 2022 applications that were prioritized, but there was not enough funding to fully program these projects. And so the first request to FDOT is to fully fund the remaining 2022 priorities. That totals about $16 million. And then we have a series of new projects. These are our 2023 projects totaling $23.7 million that would come in after that. So they're at the bottom of the list here. These are the new applications prioritized based on our LRTP scoring system. And so these are all brand new products that were vetted in this last cycle. And potentially maybe we can get a few of these funded this round, depending on funding availability. But it really is determined on cost estimates coming in and how much money is available. So looking to fund those 2022 priorities first, and then priorities these 2023 priorities. And then our request total for this, if you combine the two, is $42 million. In the backup, you'll also see a few additional highlights. The first highlight is a product that we actually have at the top of the list. It's been there for quite some time, and this deals with FEC railroad crossings and quiet zones for Brightline corridor. And the TPA has prioritized and funded a lot of the railroad safety improvements throughout the county so that quiet zones could be designated for those local municipalities. One of the sections was also in Lake Park. When the FRA went out there to do the field site visit with the stakeholders, they found that they still needed a few other additional treatments out there so that they can get a quiet zone in place. And so our request at that is to fund that portion. It's about $450,000 to finish up that. And then they would be the last of the communities that would need to have the designation for quiet zones along the corridor. Next is to try to advance the Palm Tran electric buses that are currently in fiscal year 27. This is a priority from 2020. This is one of the other ones that in discussion with FDOT before heading into these meetings with you all is that there is some funding available in the earlier year. And this is one of the ones that are easy to move up. And so if we move this product up from 27, that allows us some money available in 27 to be freed up, and we're going to use that on Gardens Parkway. So that's our priority, is to fund the advancement of Gardens Parkway. That was the next one on the local initiatives list from 2022 that was not yet funded. And the last program, Transportation Alternatives, example product in Delray Beach. Man, that's 2 examples from Delray Beach. We have other examples as well, but this is a great product as well. Alleyway improvements, shared use pathways, and Delray Beach. So this goes towards non-motorized infrastructure, a lot of safety improvements, pedestrian bicycle improvements, around $5 million a year that we have to prioritize. And these are all new products for 2023. And then one transfer from that local initiatives list. So another one of those local initiatives products from 2022 that was #1 on the list that we're looking to get funded earlier is 22-5, and that's in Boca Raton. So that's a transfer product from our LI product list. Try to fund that in an earlier year as well. And then we have the 5 new products for 2023. The total there is $6.5 million. So it was a lot of information, a lot of products to go through, but we have to answer any questions.
I don't have any question. I see VJ's cards up and, oh, no, card's not up. Myron.
I'd just like to make a comment about project number 04-1. It's a favorite project of mine and Mr. Vasilati's. This is 04-1 means it was #1 priority in 2004. And this project, looking at the backup material, is not scheduled for construction in the 5-year TIP. It's sometime, it indicates sometime beyond FY28. The comment in that chart says the reason is litigation. The litigation was concluded 8 years ago. And since then, FDOT was required by the result of that litigation to propose to request a permit and to schedule an administrative hearing to determine the extent to which the design was consistent with the FDOT design manual and applicable law. Since that time, FDOT has requested, I think, 4, maybe 5 postponements of that hearing and redesigned the road 3 or 4 times. So it stretches the imagination that the #1 project from 2004 there's no vision for it or sometime beyond 28. And I don't know why it's a list of priorities can include a project that is not envisioned in the TIP.
Yes, if you can respond to Myron.
Sure. I guess I'll talk higher level about sort of the programming of projects and how they move through the work program schedule here. So this #1 priority is one of those ones, you know, he gave a good overview. Myron did it of sort of the permitting process. For a few of you who've been here a few years, you'd have noticed before that this has been the priority for quite some time, and it actually it was set to go to construction, and then it was delayed 1 year, and after that delayed that 1 year in a program to the new first year of the program, and I think I did it one more time, but after a while, you know, based on litigation that's still being held up, they really just couldn't find a spot for it that early on in the work program. And it really, because of the cost of these products now, like $87 million, you know, it'd be great to be able to keep it early on in the work program and ready to go at all times once that gets figured out. But FDOT just couldn't find a spot for it, right? Because it's taken up $87 million worth of funds. So that's why it's gotten to the back of the work program again. If it gets figured out, you know, FDOT's going to, you know, do the best to push this forward because they're ready to go basically on construction, right? So it would be accelerated to the best of their ability.
Let me comment on that. The road has been redesigned several times because at one instance, there were elements of the road that were not consistent with the FDOT design manual. There was a bridge, for example, that was not designed the way the FDOT design manual said it should be designed. And so when that was discovered, FDOT said, okay, let's postpone the hearing, you know, for another 18 months while we redesign the bridge. And then there was a problem with the stormwater management model that they used. They used a stormwater management model that was not approved by this in the design manual. And after that, when that was discovered, there was another delay of 18 months. There's no ongoing litigation. The problem is FDOT has not been able to design a road and present it to an administrative hearing to determine whether it's properly designed. And I don't know where about the funding business, but if it's a high priority, then FDOT should get its act together and design the road consistent with the design manual and applicable law. There are some problems with stormwater management in that area. And, you know, I'd like to see it resolved one way or the other. I'm sure Mr. Veselotti would like to see it resolved one way. But be that as it may, I think it's time to fish or cut bait. By the way, the administrative law judge, the last time FDOT requested a postponement, they rescheduled it for October of this year. And the judge said, that's the last one. A couple of months ago, Ms. Nilsson said that it was being postponed again. It turns out that the city has not been advised that that FDOT wants to postpone it again. So we don't really know. But as of now, as of 2 weeks ago anyway, the hearing for that is scheduled in October. But, you know, FDOT just needs to get its act together. That's all.
Thank you. VJ.
Just to follow up on what you had mentioned, so FDOT has the plan ready to go, you're telling, is that what you said?
What I meant by that was that, you know, based on after the permitting and getting those figured out, I mean, they had a contract on ready to go. I'm not sure that person's still, that the consultant is able to go out there and do the work, or if they have to get a new contract out there. But I mean, they're ready to break ground a couple of years ago, right? So, I mean, once the plans are figured out, I don't think they'd be ready to go whenever the funding would become available. So I meant that.
Yeah, so the point is, what you mentioned is like, once the funding gets clear for DOT, they will get, obviously, the legal issue has to be resolved before that happens, but once the legal issue gets resolved, funding is available, DOT is going to prioritize the project right away.
If funding was available, and that's where it gets hard for us when it comes to the work program and the TIP, because they can't just roll funds back. Funds are set for for that year. So for example, let's say State Road 7 is ready to go. And they could advance the project based on their work schedule. They'd have to find $87 million in funds, right? So they would have to pull products out or some other, pursue discretionary grants, whatever it is. They just can't keep a placeholder in there that keeps eating up and messing up their work program.
I'm sorry, but they don't have a permit. So so if the money appeared tomorrow, they couldn't begin construction because there is no permit.
No, that's fine. The point is the plan, like the engineering plans are ready to go. It's just they need the legal clarity and then they need the permits for starting the.
Permits, yes, all that. If that was figured out, if we're talking just about funding, then they would have to go and pursue funding.
Well, again, just to clarify, so recently when at the state, they had 20 priority projects, I think. Governor said, you know what, let's put $7 billion for those projects. So state finds money once the legal issue is resolved. State finds money. I don't think the money is ever going to be a problem. Once this legal issue is resolved, this project is going to get done, moved wherever it need to be moved, and it's going to get built because this project is very important for Western Palm Beach County. It's very important. I've talked about Wellington, Royal Palm Beach, Loxahatchee, Belglade, Pahokee, all these cities, they need this project to be completed.
I don't disagree with that. But they don't have a permit. So they don't have, if you can't build the thing without a permit, and the permit, the purpose of the permit is to determine whether it's an adequately designed road. It's not so far, they don't have an adequately designed road.
And DOT designs thousands of miles of road, so they know how to design.
They do
They
have,
gotta get the permit.
I know they do,
They gotta get the.
but they
permit.
haven't so far.
They will.
Yes, Paula Ryan.
Thank you. So this road has been designed a couple of times since its original proposal, and the objections have always been related to grassy waters and its impact to that. That's their stated published issues. So as we sit here today, do we know if this road as designed within your priority projects is still that same design? I mean, I'm wondering if you can't, within the permitting process, you're not going to get a permit for a road that the permitting agency is not approving. So even if we vote on this, you still have to go through the permitting process. And that permitting process could result in another design change because that's what's happened over the years. And if this permitting process could happen overnight, would the money that has been set aside, be drawn down? Or is there a time lapse between the permitting process and the money that is being set aside? And isn't there time to reallocate funds to move forward in a way that gets the road? I mean, it's a priority because of all the development that has occurred out west. There's just no doubt about that. There is no alternative to getting all those people here, but that road just continues to be a fight, a contention. Some people are in Tallahassee fighting for it, and some people in Tallahassee are fighting against it, and some people are in DC fighting for it, and some people in fighting against it. And we sit here and we have to vote on an entire package that we know from our electeds who put us here that it is either a bad idea or a good idea, but it's all predicated on building through grassy waters. I mean, is there a way to know that that's not going to happen? Is that so that we can vote on this and move on, or vote against the whole package and move on, or like?
Yes, and I think every time this item comes up in the TIP or the LRTP, we all make this, we have our the same dispute that we usually do, and then we make our stance and we vote on it as is. If we don't like it, we vote against it. And I believe Richard would like to say, to add to this. You have, okay, you have his card up. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jim.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. All right, a couple things real quick. Myron, how are you? This is not a DOT problem at all. This is a city of West Palm Beach issue controlled by a handful of people in Ibis. That is it. Everybody knows it. Everybody who's been elected into the city and works for the city of West Palm Beach knows this, and everybody else knows this. This is not a DOT issue. The permits have been there in the past. West Palm keeps putting their hands up and they're able to solve. It's honestly, it's been very, very selfish of them because this is not a water issue at all. This has nothing to do with water. This has nothing to do with grassy waters. For some of our new members who may not be aware of this, if you're being told this is a water contamination issue, that is a lie. This is about the portion of State Road 7 off of and right to the east entrance exit of Ibis. The people, not the people, some people in Ibis do not want that private little entrance of State Road 7 treaded on. They don't, and that is a fact. And the thing is, this road benefits nobody more than Ibis, period. And newly annexed Palm Beach Gardens and the Western communities, as BJ was saying. If this was a water issue, keep in mind this road has been planned since the 1940s. If this was a water issue, Henry Flagler, who created the M Canal and the West Palm Beach water system, we just had Commissioner Coons speak at a recent Board of County Commission meeting, and I mentioned this to you guys, I believe, in the past, that when he was elected in 1989, he talked about Flagler's ditch and drinking the headwaters of the Kissimmee River from Lake Okeechobee that come from the parking lots of Disney World. That in the city of West Palm Beach's drinking water comes from Lake Okeechobee, and it goes through grassy waters. There's three sources of your drinking water and the well system, but the main source is Lake Okeechobee. Grassy waters is not some pristine drinking water system. And as a matter of fact, City of West Palm has some of the worst drinking water there is. So if we can get beyond the lie of, oh my gosh, this is going to contaminate our water, because North Lake Boulevard, which runs off every time it rains, and Myron, I know you just saw it the other day, it was flooded over the swales and right into grassy waters. And nobody's complaining about North Lake Boulevard. They're not. They're complaining about this road. It is so blatant what the real issue is. So now, maybe once we get some honest elected officials in West Palm, which will probably never happen as long as this road is an issue, then we can discuss this in further. Because if they don't want the road coming out of the east side near their east entrance exit of Ibis, let's think about a different path. Why can't we take the extension that has been done between Okeechobee and 60th and from Orange Grove Boulevard or Persimmon Boulevard, run it to 45th Street? If would that make somebody happy? Because it's not about the water. It's about where the road travels. And we need east-west relief in that area. There's I believe it's 7.5 miles between North Lake and Okeechobee with no east-west relief. And that there's nowhere in Palm Beach County that has that much space between the roads. But as soon as we can get past that, this is not a drinking water issue, and be honest about it, we'll come to a conclusion with this, because the millions and millions that keep adding up to eventually when and if this road is done is astronomical on the taxpayer. It's not fair. And if this road does get put through, I think City of West Palm should cut the check for how much more this road costs. Reimburse the state, the DOT on the state, because it's been completely unfair.
Great. Thank you for your opinion.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Paula, closing remarks?
Yes, so if a handful of us don't vote for this, it has zero impact on whether or not this moves forward as a priority. And in the past, as I recall, when we as a Citizens Advisory Committee may have made a stand such as that, it was immediately reversed at the TPA. So wanting to keep my seat, I know where I'll vote. I know where my heart is. And I hope that this gets resolved soon. Thank you.
Let's focus on all the positive projects that's on the work program as well. So with that, I'm gonna close members' comments and we're gonna, I'm gonna ask for a motion in a second.
Move to approve the motion as it is.
Okay. Okay, we have VJ and then we have Sammy for a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so we have Myron and Paula for no. Okay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. And I believe that is it. Thank you so much. We're on to administrative items. The next meeting is September 6th.
Yes. Madam Chair,
25.
just a few remarks. Just remember, we do have that performance measures workshop coming up in August. So if you'd like to be part of that, that's open to everyone to attend. And then if you haven't scheduled a one-on-one with me yet, if you want to learn more about anything, just don't be afraid to sign up for that. And I think we'll be sending out a survey, Ruth, just to update some of our membership census data.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I will see you guys in September. Thank you. Seven is older than her. This project is older than me by 9 months.
What year?